NPR is controlled by the liberals selling political ideologies, is along the sentiments of something we've all heard from people desperately reaching for a whataboutism argument to defend right-wing propaganda masquerading as news, which on its face is just ridiculous. NPR is about as moderate of a news source as you're going to find as far as mainstream media outlets go. But of course, when you've made your entire personality being completely obsessed with a writhing, gelatinous orange blob and his army of rabid rascal scooter-riding worshippers, anything that's critical of the horrible gelatinous blob, his drove of dunce dragoons, or the institutions that they represent or associate with is going to feel like an unfair, biased personal attack, no matter how accurate that critique or reporting may be. Which inevitably means that not only is every media outlet that prints anything other than North Korean-level love letters for dear leader biased and unfair and controlled by the liberals, but that every inquiry, investigation, and indictment is a witch hunt or a plot. And to try to justify those claims, they'll jump back into their whataboutisms. Hillary's emails, Hunter's laptop, Obama's third-grade report card. Where's NPR's report on that, huh? Why isn't the FBI investigating those things? And then they'll use that to assert that their side isn't doing the shady shit it's accused of, and even if it is doing the shady shit they're accused of, both sides are the same. And I read an article on NPR today that just really beautifully kneecaps all of that. Because they, along with a bunch of other news outlets, just reported on New Jersey Senator Robert Mendez being indicted on corruption charges. Now, Robert Mendez is a long-term Democratic senator. And yet nowhere in this liberal-controlled NPR article did I find a single sentence trying to spin this as a witch hunt or unfair persecution. In fact, I found the article really objective, but if anything, it erred on the side of being critical of the senator. What's more is numerous high-ranking Democrat politicians and party officials have publicly called for his resignation and are removing him from committees. Then there's no overwhelming presence on social media of people defending him and calling this a witch hunt or unfair persecution. In fact, the opposite. All I've heard is from people who vote consistently blue saying that he should have the book thrown at him. And he should. He has a long history of credible corruption allegations and should have been purged from the party years ago. And there are certainly some issues to be addressed as to why he hasn't been. But there's no large groups of people feverishly defending his actions because the idea that their leaders might be held accountable will shatter the identity politics that consume their entire personality. There's no liberal media pivot or spin trying to defend him or make him look less guilty than he likely is. There's no senators or congresspeople or state elected officials trying to undermine the criminal proceedings or fire the prosecutor. Do you see the difference when you compare it to other people who are currently being indicted? Now, do both sides have greed, bad policy, issues? Absolutely. Is there corruption on both sides? Without question. And there is certainly some level of propaganda and bias in all media, because all media is produced by people and all people are imperfect. But when it comes to objective criticisms of your party and its people, and the media sources you rely on to reaffirm your confirmation bias, and you start warming up that whataboutism, both sides, liberal media rhetoric, just stop. Because your inability to be internally critical of yourself, your media sources, your party, and your leadership is what has allowed your leadership to become so cartoonishly awful. Because not only do you allow them to get away with it, you defend them for it no matter how egregious their actions are. And all because your fucking tribalism won't let you ever acknowledge that you may have been wrong about something and therefore you can't learn or grow from new information. And it makes it all the more frustrating because it drags everybody else down with you. You see, people in the center, if those exist anymore, and people on the left, they want more from their leadership. They can acknowledge that the Democrats aren't perfect. Hell, they can acknowledge that they're honestly pretty fucking shitty. And they can be shitty. They just have to be slightly less shitty than the other side, which is a pretty low fucking bar because you won't hold your goddamn leaders accountable. Why is that too much to ask for? But since obviously it is, can we at least stop having you guys try to gaslight everybody, including yourselves, into thinking that there's an analog to every shitty thing you, your media, and your leaders do on the other side? Because a lot of times there isn't. Sometimes the shitty stuff you do is just a you thing. And if you're not going to hold your peers, your media outlets, and your elected officials accountable for it, the very least you can do is just stop trying to gaslight the rest of us because it's fucking exhausting.